Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video, and I am on my Dino a Day review series again, and this very conspicuous rock is our next dino. Now, this bad boy, I'm sure you've seen them if you're new to Ark. Well, maybe you haven't. The Rock Elemental. This guy originally came out in the Scorched Earth pack, and people didn't really know what to do with him at first. They kind of just, existed, for lack of a better word. They were a thing. But I will tell you that they are amazing creatures. Like, they are a different level of awesome. Now, the reason behind that is because they can pretty much soak any turret in the world. Mind you, tech is not the greatest, and it does a lot of damage to them. But with a decent saddle and a high health rock elemental, you can still soak quite a bit. So this guy's kind of like a PvP monster. So what do you want to level in this guy? There's two things. Now, first, obviously, health. I've seen some crazy health stats on these things. I mean, you can get them really high. We're just going to put this one at 50k because, that why not? You can level melee damage on them pretty well as well, and then get some, overall weight. It kind of depends on what you want. Personally, for me, I think it's pure health. That's what you want to level. It is solo player, so you're going to get some increased numbers on this guy, but oh well. Now, it has a couple different really special things. Obviously, you can see that once it gets bloody, it doesn't actually do blood. It's like an obsidian-based color, or a scheme that's, I don't even know what to call it, like the dark-colored blood. But what's really awesome about these guys is they gather stone very effectively. Now, some people prefer them to the Doedicarus just because they can technically have more carry weight than a Doedic. And you'll also notice that it does carry at reduced weight, about half reduced weight, so that's not too shabby. But they can gather stone pretty well. If you use their primary attack, you can get some pretty decent stone. You can also use their secondary, or tertiary attack, in order to actually get some stone. They will harvest hide, meat, all that kind of stuff. And if you hit the C button, that's kind of how you do this like spin flying attack, send everything in a different direction. Now, it does a very decent amount of damage. Obviously, you can see 708 is quite a lot. But his primary attack does do more damage with that slam attack, if you want to call it that. Now, there is also an attack that he has that's even more than all of that. And I'll show you that in just a second here once I get rid of these rocks. Is this not gettable? No, it's not. Now, his special attack... Nope, you're not going to let me... Okay, cool. But his special attack, he can take a rock from the ground, just like this, and launch it at things. Now, that attack does a load of damage. As you can see, 1300 is a very decent amount of damage, and he can launch rocks quite a distance, as you can see right there. Boom. So you can snipe some things with rocks, and that's kind of cool. I've never actually tested raiding somebody's base by throwing rocks at them, but you can see that you can get some pretty good distance on those things. I mean, you don't really have to be super close to bomb somebody's base with rocks. If you're good at it, you can probably hit somebody out of the sky. One of the easiest counters to this guy is the fact that people can kind of, ooh, what a shot. They can pick you off of this thing, but if you can hit them out of the sky with the rock like I just did there, it's something where you don't have to worry about it too much. Now, he does have very low stamina. That's a negative side of it, because movement is not his friend. But overall, a pretty good tame to use to get a bunch of basic stuff. Especially early game where you can tame these things really easy. You just basically use a cannon to knock them out. They're pretty good overall tames. Now, what makes them even more powerful is something that a lot of people forget about. You can use them very effectively on defense. So let's say that that's my base over there. This, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You spawn in the upper left corner of Ragnarok. You spawn a lot of times inside this funky looking volcano-esque structure. Now, what happens, let's say this is my door right here, right? If I put one of my rock alleys outside, I can leave them on turret mode and aggressive. You can see a dodo right there. Behavior, enable turret mode, and then behavior aggressive. He will attack anything that gets close, and he'll throw rocks at things, which makes him very, very useful. So I'll go ahead and attack that guy. Now bring him nice and close, and I'll show you what I mean. Rock Ellie? Get pissed, please? There he goes. So notice he'll pick up a rock, and he'll attempt to hit it. He'll miss, apparently. But he will continue to throw rocks at this thing. and swing away at it on turret mode. So especially if you're up high on somewhere, you can literally just use him as a turret that throws rocks and knocks things back, because his attack does knock things backwards. Now another way to use him on base defense is because if you kind of like leave him kind of slightly rendered in, he can block pretty much. I mean, the only thing that's going to damage this guy is C4 and rockets, but if you have turrets covering him, you don't have to worry about that. So when someone's like trying to attack your base with a cannon or anything, this guy will soak up a lot of that damage. Now also, it's really effective to use these things on actual base defense, because it's really hard to shoot somebody off the top, because every time this guy takes a step, he kind of throws you up and down and up and down. So a lot of people will actually use these on defense, because I mean, you have to hit them with a rocket or C4. You can't just come and bite them with like a Rex or something like that. It's not worth your time. Some higher level Gigas might be worth it, but even then I wouldn't consider it, just because one of these high level rock golems will sit with a saddle on it, and it can soak you all day long and just launch rocks at you from a distance, which is pretty nice, obviously. So not having to worry about any form of Giga is pretty nice on this guy, because they can soak a lot of damage. Now you can see that they actually gather a huge amount of overall resources as well. I mean, you see that? That's a ton of wood. So if you were to actually go through the jungle, anywhere really, he can gather a ton of wood for you. The only negative thing, super slow, so you're gonna have to transport him on a raft, and that's a pretty popular way to actually get a bunch of wood out of these guys, but I still think that they're not better than the Therizino. But that's my personal opinion. So, oh well, there are worse things. But you can level them up pretty good. They're pretty good overall starter tames. Endgame, they can be useful, but pretty much for the sole purpose of raiding and base defense. There's no like useful reason to have them for eggs or kibble or anything other than PvP reasons. They don't really have PvE value, just because they get outscaled by the Therizino for wood gathering. They get outscaled by the Megaloceros for thatch gathering. They get outscaled by the Doedicurus. I think even the Gotcha might out-harvest these guys when it comes to stone, but I'm not entirely sure. They can't gather metal, so they're not as good as an Anki. So resource-wise, they're good early game, because they're kind of like a defensive juggernaut for you while you're out here, because there's really not much in the world. Let's say, you know, you accidentally hit a turtle. Most starting people are like, oh, I'm gonna die now. But your rock golem will take care of it pretty quickly. So these things are pretty awesome starter tames for gathering things, but when it comes to actual endgame stuff, not super valuable, sadly. Other than PvP reasons, obviously, but you kind of understand that I've already stated that, so I don't need to continue to go over it. But the Rock Elemental, pretty awesome overall tame. Nothing super special, nothing super bad about it. I think that it's a very popular tame for raiding, even though I can think of about a million other tames I'd rather use, just because it's got so many different counters to it. And just to show you real quick how it raids, there are two things you want to do. One, you can go backwards to block turrets, because you can see that giant spike in the back. If you look down, that spike will block the bullets for you. However, the other more common way is if you look straight up and you go into spectator mode, you notice you kind of get tossed straight back, and he blocks pretty much everything. The negative side of this is you have to be in spectator mode, because if you don't go out of spectator mode, you're gonna end up hurting yourself for doing something stupid you can't see. So that's kind of a negative side of this, but he will hide you inside of that spike as well, so it's really hard to hit somebody off. But that's how he's used for defensive and offensive reasons in PvP, and other than that, pretty awesome little tame here. You should have one if you haven't gotten one already, and other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this. I am back doing some more dino a days. I'll do some other neat stuff as well. So anyways, hopefully this helps. Teach. Ow.